everyone, my name is Sophie Ash and I'm the series host of our COVID-19 video series. Today's guest is Rejane Guerreiro. She's a psychologist who specializes in NeuroLeadership and the challenges in adjusting to a new culture. Hi Rejane, how are you?
Hi, Sophie. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So, I would like for you to give a bit of an overview to our listeners about your background, a little bit about your story and what you do.
All right. After graduating psychology in Brazil in 1999 and specializing in racial and body-oriented psychotherapy, I came to the US to study for a year. And facing countless challenges as a foreign student, I realized that many others, just like me, could be experiencing similar situations. Then I started wondering where these students or expats look for help or some kind of support. And at that time, there are no many resources out there. So I decided to stay in US and keep studying. And in a way, I fell in love with neuroscience, and later I went for a NeuroLeadership master's degree in London. In 2002, I founded what today is the Being Neurocreative Center in New York that provides neuroleader coaching, neural mentoring, workshops, and I also customized programs to assist international individuals and corporations in growing and thriving. Currently, I'm the only Brazilian professional licensed in the USA and also in several countries to certified professionals in the use of evidence-based um, brain evidence-based psychometrics assessments, NBI, that stands for Needling Brain Instruments, via the Neurocreative Center. And I also created and taught a virtual extension course in neurocoaching, which is self-coaching on how to develop self-awareness and rewire the brain from the prestigious university UNESCO in Santa Catarina, the state where I came from, Brazil. And I also was board member for 8 years at the Brazilian nonprofit Mantena Global Care, which is a group that assists Brazilians and other ethnicities in a variety of services. And because of my work in this area, and with the support from the Brazilian Consulate of New York, I also was selected to represent New York and New Jersey states in the Brazilians in the World conferences of 2008 and 2009 in Rio de Janeiro. Also, with this Brazilian consulate, I had the opportunity to customize and run workshops for students of the Science Without Borders program to assist them with the challenges of living and studying abroad. In fact, I work with all sorts of people and empowering expats with the skills and tools to effectively transition, cope, and thrive as people and leaders in a novel environment has been my passion for over 20 years.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm amazed at the wealth of knowledge and experience that you have in this field. We're very lucky to have you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you think people are facing at the moment, specifically immigrants, people who are new to the country, adjusting to a different culture. What kind of things are they facing at the moment? What is particularly difficult for them at this time?
Yes, we understand that coronavirus pandemic is not just affecting people's health. It's affecting all aspects of their lives. And for majority of people, it's not a single struggle, especially for expats. In my work with these expats communities, I see their despair firsthand. There are those who work in multinational companies and are afraid of losing their jobs, and as well those who have or had at this time multiple part-time jobs and still don't have food to provide for their family. So An estimated 56 million people in the world are expatriates, and according to the 2018 Census Bureau, near 17% of the US labor force, that means 1 in 6 workers is an expat, and a huge number of them are not financially well established and likely have no members around. And
Mm.
expats can fall in many different categories. For example, they may be exiles, athletes, refugees fleeing natural disasters, war, persecution, students, professionals sent abroad by their employers or contracted by an international company, which, by the way, these professionals make up the majority of my clientele. And those forced to flee for economic reasons, one of the largest groups of expat. And this makes the second most of my clients. So, in fact, no matter the reason, leaving a home country results always in mental, emotional, and physical adjustment periods. And sometimes many move for political safety reasons, and they must take an unskilled labor position to make ends meet and are unable to
Mm.
work on their domain of expertise. So this the feeling of being professionally underestimated, underpaid, and most of the time overworked is a selling experience for many expats, besides the feeling of loneliness when leave their spouses and kids behind. So the coronavirus pandemic just make these feelings extremely magnified regardless of their socioeconomic status or privilege.
Hmm.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that you represented and summarized it perfectly. Those are all the things I would have thought about. And yeah, I mean, is there any? Have you had to make a shift in how you are helping people at this time, or is it all kind of just an amplified version of what you were helping with people with before?
Yes, I have amplified, in fact, because at this moment, uh, not specifically this moment, but more at this moment, there are many cases, for example, of expats who fall sick and have no one to take care of them because they come alone sometimes by themselves to this country to help to supply their families in their mother country. But specifically this time, due to so much uncertainty, uh, possibly their immune system could be affected by high levels of stress for fear of not surviving or other emotional reasons, making them more susceptible to illness. So
Mm-hmm.
there are also those who unfortunately die, not necessarily at this moment for the coronavirus, but in other circumstances. Uh, and the local communities make fundraising to help the costs of sending the corpses back to their mother countries. So in this physical
Wow.
distancing, I believe my work with especially expats, it has been more important than ever. I also have been offer emotional support, virtual emotional support for expats, pro bono, just to help them to go through this very hard experience that has been for many.
That's very good of you. And so, going into the second half of the interview, I would love to spend the last 10 minutes talking about some of the practical advice and tips and recommendations that you have to support people who are struggling during the pandemic.
Yes, we have talked so much about physical distancing. Um, Matthew Lieberman, UCLA neuroscience professor and expert in the social brain, introduced the world to the notion that our brains are wired to facilitate social interaction. So, in these trying times of a coronavirus, we should be seeking social togetherness coupled with physical distancing rather than social distancing. And of course, we have to take some time to reflect on our personal and emotional challenges and how we have adapted to these challenges. So I have here a few suggestions or tips for people when expats, especially, to stay socially connected and rewire their brains to better adjust to this time of a physical distancing. So I first of all, I would suggest, just keep brain and mind positive. I know this is being, working so hard, being positive, but it is possible in focusing on solution. One of the things is avoid overconsumption of news, which evokes mixed feelings. And this time, more than ever, we have to be in charge of our emotions. Specifically, this time, I would say it's mandatory. Um, it's interesting just to understand that our brains, it's a quantum space, and the information introduced to it through our thoughts, mental states, and verbalization can change the way we feel. I think this is the major thing at this moment. But I have other tips to say, like stay connected with your family. That's elsewhere by using video chats, just like we are having right now. And a little detail is in these conversations, preferably avoid long talks about the current situations. We have to remember that our brain is registering everything, right? And it's important, especially for expats, this suggestion is to utilize the resources around as the consulate, the church, the non-government organizations. They have many programs that can provide needed resources, and search around for something near you that suits your needs. And also for if you were an expat and planning to go back home, I really suggest think carefully about your choice. All choices. So evaluating if the country you are in now is likely to experience a faster economic recovery will be something crucial at this moment, because sometimes people want, leave everything behind and run for some comfort, some emotional comfort near their families. But it's something really to think about. And remind yourself as often as you can that this is a temporary situation. And in uncertain times, especially like this, require flexibility. So this is the point. And the last but not the least, be kind and compassionate, supporting people by building bonds and doing your best in whatever you can. And by the way, this should be taken as a preventive medicine. There is abundant scientific evidence that compassion and kindness enhance our immune system and do our mind and body good.
Wow, that was a lot of advice. Thank you so much. Let's delve into one or two of these in a little bit more detail while we have a few minutes left. I would love to know, how could someone assess or go about assessing whether to stay in their new country or go back home? You mentioned the economy and kind of figuring out when it might bounce back and taking into account the long-term situation. But do you have any further advice around that? Where could somebody start thinking about that?
Yeah, the first and foremost, I would suggest to search online the countries. There is information out there. The first countries to recover from this economic I don't like the word crisis, but that's what we are going through now. Of course, if you live in a country that is, let's say, uh, longer, it takes longer to recover, and you are no matter, let's say, United States or other country that is beyond that or above that, you have to make this research, not just because you are a foreign person. You have to run back to your own country. Please, we had many others situations similar like this, like 2008, that 2000, when we had the big crash, economic crash as well. We had a similar situation. Many people run back to their country, and once the situation was over, they faced another big challenge because they had no way to survive in their own country and had no chance to go back to the country there where they were before. So, and this could be extremely traumatic. I'll tell you, as a expat myself, there's so many challenges, and this, I would say, it takes longer for the person to recover from that, and this trauma makes the person even sometimes professionally not that strong as it used to be before, because accumulate or exacerbates this sense of uncertainty and security and fear of failure, or fear of to go through again and have to go back again. So it's a lot of confusion and complexity in their emotional state.
Thank you so much for sharing, Rejane. And I'm just wondering, is there a website or a resource that you can direct people to if they want to get further information about this?
I have my own website at the beingneuroCreative.com, where I have all the information that I work with expats as well. And I would like to recommend look for the embassies or consulates near you. They offer big range of information regarding expats issues in different situations, including name and contact number of local NGOs and what these NGOs offer. Um, Also, there is a website they could look for legal help, and sometimes they offer pro bono consultation. It is www.lawhelp.org, and there's many communities, expat communities. They have local professional groups, and that's important because they can support each other with different informations for that moment, and usually different experts from different areas, and that is very helpful. And and if you feel, also look for emotional support. Emotional health is as important as physical health, especially moments like this when big decisions need to be made, and make decisions under a lot of stress could result in regrets later.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've come to the end of our time, but thank you so much, Rejane, for everything you had to share. It was very valuable, very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.